The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So Trump and the Trump administration, they actually sent a letter from the White House to the House Democrats that are actually going through with the impeachment inquiry. This 8-page letter basically says that they are not going to cooperate with the impeachment inquiry. Putting the country essentially in a constitutional crisis because. And it's ironic because they blasted the inquiry as being partisan and unconstitutional. Now, this letter came to House Democrats like hours after Ambassador to the European Union, Gordon Sondland, was actually supposed to appear at a deposition before 3 House Democrat committees, or 3 House committees, let me just say, where they were going to basically grill him because he was seen as a person that had actually made communication connections between Rudy Giuliani, Trump's personal lawyer and former mayor of New York City, and Ukrainian officials. There was even a text that said, like, so are we now saying that the communication between the White House and aid is contingent on whether there's an investigation or not? And there was a response, and I'm paraphrasing, but the response was kind of like, well, we should no longer have this conversation on text, basically. So, real sneaky shit that they're not even going to answer for. We'll see how this all turns out. Adam Schiff, the House Intelligence Chair, is basically saying this is just more evidence of obstruction of justice. Green Wall and Graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Make sure you sign that petition too. Get Donald Trump off Twitter. Find the change.org link in the video description if you're watching this on YouTube. Now, the Kurdish fighters are actually bracing themselves for a humanitarian catastrophe. And that's a quote actually coming from Kurds over there in northern Syria, where the United States has actually, President Trump has actually ordered United States troops to fall back from the Turkey-Syrian border, where they've been stationed at protecting and being essentially backing Kurdish fighters. So the Turkish government is actually preparing for what they're saying is an imminent assault on Kurds in northern Syria. So a lot of people feel betrayed. A lot of Kurdish fighters and allies to the U.S. Feel betrayed by Trump's move, and they're basically even warning that they're going to abandon the prisoners of war from the U.S.-backed war or against ISIS over there. So, we'll see how this turns out. There's hundreds of thousands of civilians at the border, so people are worried that it's going to spill a lot of blood once Turkey comes in. Green Wall and Graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So, Afghanistan's National Intelligence Agency is actually reporting that Afghan U.S. attack that happened on September 23rd at the Masakala district of Helmand province. Remember, it was a wedding party, and it ended up killing 40 civilians, including 12 children. Well, the Afghan National Intelligence Agency is actually reporting that there were not only 22 Taliban members killed, but also a top Al-Qaeda leader, Asim Omar, who actually was killed also. This is the guy that actually was the leader of Al-Qaeda's affiliate in the Indian subcontinent since its formation 5 years ago. But a Taliban spokesperson is actually saying that shit is propaganda, because they really just trying to cover up the fact that it was a massacre of civilians. So, the truth will come to light possibly. Green Wall and Graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So, congressional Democrats and former service workers are actually upset with the Trump administration because they've announced plans. They are planning on removing the United States from the Open Skies Treaty. Now, this treaty allows for member states to actually fly unarmed surveillance over each other's territories to make sure that that state is in compliance with any arms deals or any treaties that they have set up regarding military power or firepower. Now, House Foreign Affairs Committee Chair Elliot Engel actually says that this is going to benefit countries like Russia because, as we know, in 2014 they actually annexed Crimea after attacking Ukraine, and now this will allow for or to make it harder for people to check Russia, or the U.S. to check Russia to make sure that they're actually in compliance with basically to check their military presence over there and make sure they're not being aggressive. So as we know that the United States actually withdrew, Trump took us to not even 2 months ago, or barely just about 2 months ago, took us out of the 1987 intermediate range nuclear treaty with Russia, which basically banned all short and mid-range nuclear and non-nuclear missiles. So, you know, it's kind of like, what's the deal? It seems like we're really trying to be lax with how we've dealt with Russia. It seems like. We'll see how this pans out. Green War and Graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So, in late August, out there in central England, near an Air Force base, U.S. Air Force base, Ann Sekulis was actually driving a car, and she's actually the wife. She's a U.S. citizen, but she's the wife of a U.S. Intelligence officer, and she actually struck 19-year-old motorcyclist Harry Dunn and killed him. When she found out that Dunn was dead, she fled the country. Now, the State Department has been claiming that she has diplomatic immunity and basically should not be charged or whatever. But British officials are asking the Trump administration to reconsider her diplomatic immunity. Even Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, on Monday had actually publicly called for her to return back to Britain. Ann Sekulis, if I was her, I wouldn't go back. But you know, black people and white women, we got different interactions with this world, especially as it relates to England and the United States. Green War and Graduation. Reporter of the New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Make sure y'all sign that petition too. Get Donald Trump off Twitter. Find the change.org link in the video description if you're watching this on YouTube, or go straight to change.org. Look up Get Donald Trump off Twitter by Bishop Grady, laying out exactly why he should be removed from that platform. Violating Twitter policies, they're putting us in danger, U.S. troops in danger, spreading misinformation has got to stop. Now, yesterday, the Supreme Court of the United States, SCOTUS, actually heard oral arguments for 3 separate cases that are meant to determine for the LGBTQ community whether you can actually be discriminated against at a job based on your sexual orientation or your gender identity. Now, or sexual preference, and sexual orientation, sexual preference, I think they're the same thing, and gender identity. Now, one of the plaintiffs, Amy Stevens, was actually fired from her job at the funeral home back in 2013, actually went outside and joined the rally that was going on outside of the Supreme Court. Another popular person, Laverne Cox, transgender actress, is actually at the rally as well. So this has determined a lot. Obviously, this is like a landmark decision for the LGBTQ community. Decisions will actually be handed out on the end of this next summer. So we'll see how this turns out. Green War and Graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So over there in California, their largest utility company, PG&E, they've actually begun shutting off electricity for 800,000 customers, basically in anticipation of this dry and windy weather leading to wildfires. These power shutouts or unprecedented blackouts are actually going to take place in 34 of the northern and central California counties. Now, keep in mind that this follows last year where they had Camp Fire, the deadliest wildfire ever in California history. Ended up taking 85 lives, took up a lot of acres of land, and when I say a lot, I'm talking about a lot, right? Like hundreds of thousands. And now, keep in mind that Camp Fire was said to have been started by poorly kept PG&E transmission lines. So I guess they're trying to cover their ass probably in a way with preemptive measures. But climate scientists, of course, are saying that hot and drier weather in Cali due to like gas emissions make Cali more susceptible to wildfires, and you know what I mean. It's always a threat. We'll see how this pans out though. Green War and Graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So out there in Montgomery, Alabama. Now people forget, but Alabama. Montgomery, Alabama specifically, used to be the capital of the Confederacy. You know what I'm saying? This is also the epicenter of like the civil rights movement back in the 50s, and definitely the Montgomery bus boycott led by Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks and other leaders, because there definitely were other leaders. But this is obviously a town that has like a very racist history. Now, fast forward, you have probate judge Stephen Reed, who actually captured 2/3 of a runoff ballot on yesterday, making him the first ever African-American mayor of Montgomery, Alabama. So shout out to Mayor Reed. Green Wall and graduation. Streets Report of the New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN Report. So Matt Lauer, former NBC host of the Today Show, you're actually going to see his name dragged through the mud again due to his sexual assault, his alleged sexual assault and raping history, where, I mean, it seemed like dude's a straight up rapist, like, for real. Because you don't really see stories like this that are this heinous made up about people. You know what I'm saying? Like when they really trying to trap people with some lies, you know, it'll use some like kind of situations that could be taken out of context. Like there'll be ambiguity around these certain situations or ambivalence. But in this case, in this book, so journalist Ronan Farrow actually released a book called Catch and Kill. And in the book, there's a detail of incident between Matt Lauer and co-host Brooke Neville as they were in Sochi, Russia in a hotel room for covering the Winter Olympics of 2014, where it said that he raped her. And she described it as excruciatingly painful and had been bleeding for days afterwards. So, and that's not the only incident. You know, multiple women come up with sex crimes, accusing this man of sex crime. And New York Times actually reported a former NBC employee said that she was summoned by him into his office in 2001, where he basically raped her till she passed out. That's fucking insane. So, Green Wall and graduation. Report of the New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN Report. So a new analysis came out actually from this book that's titled The Triumph of Injustice, How the Rich Dodge Taxes and How to Make Them Pay. And this was put out by Emmanuel Baez and Gabriel Zuckman, two economists that are actually researching at the University of California, Berkeley. And they put out an analysis that showed that the wealthiest 400 families in the United States actually paid a lower share of the taxes than any other income group in the United States. Now, this is a large change. They actually had a dramatic graph that showed that this is a large change from what's happened in the past. If you go back to 1950, the top 400 families actually paid 70% in taxes, while now, since post-Trump's tax cuts for the wealthy, the U.S. billionaires are only paying 23% of U.S. taxes. So I do think it should be considered that they are creating, these are typically people creating like sometimes hundreds of thousands of jobs, and you know, therefore have people paying taxes. But at the same time, like, these numbers don't really add up. You know what I'm saying? If you're making billions and trillions and whatever, like, and you know the country's in debt, there's probably some room for you to give back to your country. Like, come on, like, Green Wall graduation though. The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN Report. So over in Brazil, in the Amazon, there was human rights groups have actually put out an open letter saying that the last indigenous uncolonized tribes of the Amazon actually are facing genocide in the midst of these raging fires and these mounting incursions into their territories. Now, this letter came after President Jair Bolsonaro actually abruptly fired the head of the government agency that's tasked with protecting these uncontacted indigenous tribes. Now, Brazil's Indigenous Missionary Council actually put out a figure basically saying that the number of invasions into these territories of these uncontacted indigenous tribes have actually doubled to 150 incidents that have taken place since January. And also keep in mind that official figures say that 87,000 fires have taken place this year alone in the Amazon. Many of them being set on purpose. You know, fires that are set on purpose by people who are looking to open land up to miners and ranchers and loggers. So, you know, shit is looking crazy over there, and it's looking like, you know, a complete dismissal of the rights of indigenous people. Green Wall and graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN Report. Make sure y'all sign that petition though. Get Donald Trump off Twitter. You can find the change.org link in the video description if you're watching this on YouTube, or go straight to change.org. Look up Get Donald Trump off Twitter. Spelled exactly how it sounds. I believe it's change.org/p/get-donald-trump-off-twitter. Look it up, man, and make sure you sign up. Now check this out though. Over in Brazil, northeastern Brazil, 900 miles of shoreline have actually been, I guess you could say, invaded with this massive crude oil slick. Basically a bunch of crude oil that's come to the surface, fucking up South America's most popular beaches. Now there have been tests on the oil that show that it's not of Brazilian origin, so the origin of this oil remains unknown, but that's a lot of fucking beach area. Greenwall and Graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So last month actually, the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal had actually ruled that indigenous youth were discriminated against with Canada's federal child welfare policy, and ordered the government to actually pay 40,000 Canadian dollars to basically 50,000 indigenous youth. So this was actually going to be about $2 billion worth, Canadian dollars, that is, worth of reparations given to indigenous youth. Now, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, however you pronounce this shit, he's actually going to appeal this ruling. So you're talking about blocking $2 billion for what was said to be willfully and recklessly endangering these indigenous youth. We're talking about removing people from homes and having them severely impacted by a severely underfunded welfare program in Canada. Greenwall and Graduation. For the New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So a new study by the University of New Mexico actually reveals that hundreds of Navajo women actually have presented alarming levels of uranium in their systems. That's uranium, and this is decades after mining for the radioactive metal had actually ceased in their territories. Now, of the 800 Navajo women that were actually researched, essentially, or used as research, a quarter of these women actually had high levels of uranium, and a bunch of children in there as well. Now, this is has pushed Congressmember Deb Haaland, Congressmember for New Mexico, and other Democrats to actually expand compensation that should be given to these people with uranium in their system. Greenwall and Graduation.